Gwamaka, welcome to the Penguin studio. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you.
Could you maybe start with just introducing yourself and what you do?
Yes, my name is Gwamaka Mwakyanjala. I'm the Advocacy and Partnerships Manager at Norwegian Church Aid, Tanzania Country Office. Yeah, and my main role is to support the faith-based partners, to design advocacy programs, and also to kind of engage in dialogue with communities, policymakers, to ensure reforms in many ways. Yeah.
And is it like tax work? Or
tax is one of the advocacy we do, but also we do civic space issues. Right. We do advocacy around extractive resource governance. And more important is the engagement of the citizens to ensure that there is accountable governance of public resources to maximize benefits to communities.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's been great. So you've been in Oslo now for a week or so?
Yeah, sure.
And you've been talking about these issues, I feel like everywhere. It's been very impressive, all the spaces that you've been to lately. And we'll talk more about some of the most central reforms that you've been working on these last years. But because our audience might not know so much about Tanzania and the context, we wanted to ask you in the beginning to just give a brief outline of Tanzania today in terms of political system, maybe the economy and public welfare systems, and give kind of a background to this topic of this episode.
Yeah, so Tanzania is among the countries in East Africa, and our governance system is more of a democratic multi-party country where we have a president and we have a union government, which comprises of the Tanzanian mainland, where I'm coming from, but also the beautiful spice island of Zanzibar, which is a semi-autonomous government to be able to manage their systems. But they are part of the bigger Tanzania as the United Republic of Tanzania.
Yeah. I've been there.
You've been to Tanzania? Yeah. No, to Zanzibar,
To Zanzibar, yeah, for work. I was at the conference with the Zanzibar Tax Authority.
Great.
Like 3 years ago.
Wow, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. But I've always found this very complicated to understand, the connections between Tanzania mainland and Zanzibar. And there's some, like the revenue authority is kind of split, right? So there's some administrative functions that are separate because it's semi-autonomous, but then some things are
So we have
common.
kind of union matters which connect us, like immigration, we use one passport, issues around the government system, like home affairs issues, the union matters, the issues around, like I've said, the immigration. So they're kind of like 19 issues that they connect us together, but Zanzibar have their own arrangement in terms of having their government around managing their natural resources, having their own parliament in Zanzibar, but some of the members in Zanzibar attend the union parliament.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a common space kind of for interaction, both in terms of topics of regulation, but also for actual, parliamentary processes and the likes. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And how is the economic space kind of in Tanzania?
Yeah. For now, we see that infrastructure development is like leading in terms of resources-wise and investments, given that we are building the standard gauge railway from Dar es Salaam port to the plan is to go to Rwanda. Kind of connect with the Tanzanian interior to ensure that we have good transportation system. So SGR is the big investment which attract a lot of funding. So it's kind of a leading in terms of job creation and opportunities for livelihood. But also we see agriculture, which is the kind of the mainstay of the country in terms of employing more than 65% of Tanzania as kind of peasant farmers, because it's kind of a peasant economy. We don't have large scale plantation in Tanzania. Rather, it's like small farmers coming together to engage in production of both food and cash crops. So it has its own challenges in terms of access to markets, access to inputs, extension services a little bit limited, farmers not organized in a way that can approach market together. So it has its own challenges which need to be addressed. And among the programs that NCA implements, we also do some agribusiness programs, which also to connect to agriculture.
Yeah. Okay. So a large portion of the population is employed in the agricultural sector. Yeah, but there's also other sectors that are kind of coming up, like you said, infrastructure, and I guess more.
And also tourism.
Yeah. Okay.
Tourism
is
one
of
the sector which also contributes to GDP. And also mining and extractive resources. It's also contribute a lot to the national economy.
Yeah.
It has also its own challenges when it comes to benefit sharing arrangements and enforcement of law and the regulations around extractive resource governance.
Yeah.
So that's also NCA is doing an impact in that area because it connects to tax. It's the area that we can also tax more also to reduce inequality.
Yeah.
Right. Is it like a lot of like big multinationals involved in the extractive industries?
Yes.
Yeah. What sort of extractives are there?
Initially we had diamond, gold.
Right.
And now more important is the critical minerals, graphite, nickel, which has a huge demand globally. So this kind of now a new initiative where we see most of the companies coming to invest in the critical minerals. And this is the way now we want to engage as NCA in the faith actors.
Right.
We'll come more back also to the engagement that you've done in these sectors. I also just wanted to ask, because I read from the World Bank, which, they do a lot of statistics, that Tanzania kind of went up a scale in the classification, economic classification, went from lower income country to a lower middle income country in 2020. So obviously we know that, numbers aren't everything. But this implies that there's been economic growth, there's been structural changes to the economy to be classified in a different system, kind of. And you kind of touched on it when it came to the resource extraction part, but what has been has there been a parallel development between economic growth and actual increased investment in social justice, in public welfare systems, or how is this connection looking today? You said there's still quite a lot of inequality, for instance. Yeah,
it's the challenge is that most of people are still poor, and despite we see progress in terms of these investments, but still we don't see that trickle-down effect to the local people in terms of access to jobs, access to opportunities for their livelihoods. So that's some of the challenges that we have. Some resources, but they're not benefiting the most needy people. And that's what we engage into advocacy and campaigns to ensure that it makes sense to the ordinary Tanzanians. Yeah, and among others is the programs we implement in Tanzania. They're mainly of advocacy, try to influence reforms in the tax systems and also to ensure that the tax we collect is used in a manner that it brings development to the people. And that's the biggest question that we continue to engage with our government.
Yeah. In this podcast, we've had multiple episodes where we talked about this kind of fiscal social contract, this expectation that if you pay tax, you should get something back from it. And I guess it's something along those lines. So I want to move on to the main topic that we wanted to talk to you about today, which is this health reform. Because as you mentioned with NCA and also in your past work, you've done quite a lot of work on advocacy, trying to build that bridge between, mobilizing resources, but ensuring that those resources also actually bring welfare and bring increased service delivery to the people. And in 2023, there was passed a landslide, very revolutionary health reform in Tanzania. Do you want to just give the brief outline of this reform and the background of why it was needed, who developed it and who pushed for it?
Yeah, maybe the history is around it started in 2008 when Norwegian Church Aid and the faith partners started to do some research in these mining investment works in Tanzania, because during that time it's where we are starting to do extraction around the gold and the other resources in a big scales. So we realized a lot of challenges in terms of people being moved from their original places, no compensation, corruption, mismanagement of resources were among of the challenges that we are going through as a country. But also, we don't see the impact of these mining activities to the local people. So that was the problems we have during that time. So NCA and the faith actors conducted research, and very famous research. We have our goal, our people, government to prioritize which they want. You want to support your people, you want to support investors. So I was trying to challenge the government to do more to the people. But we had also the golden opportunity. That was another study we conducted with some critical findings that these are the resources, if used wisely, they are going to potentially help Tanzania to move to the level that everyone will have access to key social services for their livelihood. But the most important study and the game changer was the $1 billion question report that was kind of showcasing how much Tanzania is losing in tax resources from the mining area. And if these resources could be managed in a sustainable way, could potentially finance the universal health care. So that was kind of a game changer.
And when was this report?
That was it. It was in 2015.
Okay. Yeah.
And in 2017 is where we see the government implementing some of the key recommendations that were put forward by the faith actor through the three research I've explained. And we see also the reforms in the Mining Act and the laws and the policies, giving more power to the people to be able to benefit from these resources. So from there we say, okay, if the government is taking serious tax collection from the mining, so let's follow where the money is going. So that was the point of departure from mining now to investing in social service delivery. So it's where we conducted this famous report. We call it Make It Possible, Universal Health Care. And we wanted to see how tax commitments can move Tanzania towards universal health care. So that was the study which recommended how Tanzania will be able to collect tax, to broaden the tax base, to be able to finance the universal health care. But it was very difficult advocacy journey because given that the government has a lot of priorities and when you propose to the government that we want this reform, you should be able to provide the sources of funds. Where are you proposing that the government should be able to collect more to finance social goods?
But so you were able to collect more through the 2017 changes for the mining industry, or what sort of taxes were implemented then?
Yes, still yes, but the issue was like we have collected more and the government is also spending the other important aspects.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and now we are bringing the universal health care. Then the question is, where do we get the money for this extra portion
exactly,
of the issue you want to advocate? It's where now we had to do the costing studies, try to showcase where the government can be able to collect more to finance UHC. And it's where we came up with the suggestion of taxing on syntax, on sugar items.
So what can you define syntax?
Syntax is to tax more on product like cigarettes, alcohol, you see, to be able now to finance more the health.
Yeah, and it has double consequences, I guess. Both you get more income, but you also maybe discourage this type of behaviors that are harmful. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was the reason behind that faith actors proposition on the taxing on these products. So it was a long journey of advocacy. Took almost 5 years. So as you see, when you want to bring changes on the behavior, on the practice, it's not something that can happen tomorrow.
No.
It takes time. So it was a 5 years advocacy. It was until 2023 where the bill was passed in the parliament and it was assented by the president to become a law. And maybe the key lessons from it was more of the coalition building with other stakeholders who have interest on the health issues. So through faith actors, we were able to mobilize other groups, the media, to amplify voices, to showcase the challenges that the facility that the poor people cannot be able to access good quality health. And during that time, it's well realized that 12 million Tanzanians who are the most poor people who cannot afford. You see, which is the big number.
Everything there was nothing that was covered before.
There was some coverage a bit, but you need to pay.
Yeah.
You see?
Of course.
So now we wanted them to have access to healthcare services without additional payment.
Yeah.
So that was our ambition.
It's a very interesting case study of taking kind of this what's it called, handlingsrom, like this space where all of a sudden there's opportunity to act, because you see the government is responsive on the issue of increasing tax revenues, but then really setting out to show, okay, but if you can get more income, you can really deliver on this one specific service, which in this case you chose health. And I also find it interesting, like you said, how you built so much knowledge along the way that it was almost impossible, I guess, for the government to ignore. You came with the solutions to all the problems with all your reports.
And now we see now the importance of research to generate evidence for advocacy, because you cannot convince the government to do something if you do not have data.
Right.
And advise that how the government can do more to ensure that we realize those health outcomes. So the research was key, and we continue doing research even now to be able to see currently what is the potential tax collection in Tanzania. Like in 2022, we did what we call Commitment to Reduce Inequality Index, which shows that indicated that Tanzania potential tax collection stood at 22%. And you see, this is very low in terms of the needs of the country, you see, and cannot be able to finance the social services. And why it was potentially low, we see there are challenges in terms of the informal sector, which employs like 80% of the population, but does not pay tax. You see, so you see the group which pay tax in Tanzania is very small. So we need to kind of expand that one. But also we have one progressive property tax, where we see a single story house is taxed the same to maybe a 2-bedroom house. So we need to also to put that to ensure that the property tax is progressive, so that we tax more to the people who have incomes, and to be able to support those who are most poor people.
Yeah, I was wondering when you mentioned that the way to finance the universal healthcare reform was sin tax. When you mentioned a progressive tax system now, is that to me intuitively it sounds regressive, right? That people spend more. When their income is low, they spend more of their income on like cigarettes and anything they buy, but including the things that are being taxed. Is it? But they're also, I guess, getting back the universal healthcare, so it's a benefit. But is it? It sounds a bit like a regressive tax, even though.
Of course, it looks like a regressive tax, but in our context, because we connect that the sin tax with the people's health. That in a way, cigarettes, too much drinking of alcohol can also potentially lead to poor health. So that was the premise behind why we promoted that. But at the same time, we still promote the government to kind of introduce progressive taxation system, and we really appreciate the Norwegians who are supporting the Tanzania Revenue Authority to broaden the tax base and to ensure they have progressive tax system. So it's kind of an ongoing advocacy process. Which we are optimistic as we continue to engage, more can be done in terms of collection and the support to the most poor. Because we see the biggest concern now is how we are challenged with the debt. You see, like the research we conducted last year, the amount that Tanzania pay in debt is like 5 times of the health budget, 2 times of education budget.
Really?
While the education budget now is like 12 trillion shillings, which is like far below the African Union protocol, which requires to invest up to 20% of the national budget on education and 15% of the budget in health, you see. But now we only spend like 7-8% on the health. So we are far behind to realize those African Union targets in terms of social service delivery.
And obviously a big hamper on this is exactly the debt expenditures, right? But also it's fascinating, or not fascinating, but it's a complicated story, because of course taking on debt is also a way to ensure incomes so that you can have spending on certain sectors. Of course, it's politically decided, but obviously it's also a result of lacking revenue generation internally that you need to take on that because you don't have enough national tax base.
I think that's what we are looking at to ensure that we strengthen domestic resource mobilization to fight inequality. And that's what we are challenging the government now to ensure that we introduce more sources of tax revenue to be able to kind of have enough blood in that coffer from, like what we see the change in 2012 research, in 2022 research, it was like potential tax was 23%. But the research we conducted last year, we see kind of a small increment from 23 to 25%, which is small, but it's also significant in terms of government taking action to collect more to finance social goods. So we see some progress, and if we continue with advocacy, we'll maybe get to 30%, and we can also go to 40%. But what's important is lack of job creation opportunities, because we cannot broaden the tax base while 80% of the informal sector is not participating in the economy.
Yeah. So
I was just a quick Claire, when you mentioned like 22% and 25%, is that as share of GDP or what is that?
That's the potential, and we collect only 23 of potential tax.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
So out of the 100 that you could have collected.
You could get. Yeah. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we are 25%.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, but it matters, the 2%
increase,
of course.
It matters.
I also think it's to bring in a bigger context. We see now, because the interest rates are rising, and also instability in the world, making financing more insecure. This puts a lot of pressure on governments like the Tanzanian government to finance their necessary spending in different ways than debt. So there's also a concern that taking too much haste in kind of covering that gap that you now need, this financing gap, by pushing into the domestic resource mobilization can lead to very unequitable results, right? So this episode is not out yet at this time where we record this, but we had a researcher last episode on this podcast who is an expert in informal economy taxation. And she was very engaged in this topic of, the informal sector, it's this wide, diverse sector, and it seems like this gold mine for tax revenue. But the risk is that if you just tax it to cover up some budget deficit 1 year, you might risk causing more harm in long term, right? Is this also something that you try to bring into your analysis, like the terms of regressivity or harmfulness of short-term tax reforms, which are not really looking at bigger term issues?
I think that's what we are looking at, and what we see is important is the formalization of the business, and that is key. Because yes, we have the informal sector, which employs 80% of the people.
Right.
Yes, taxing the informal sector has its own consequences in terms of those who are the most poor people. But if we are able to formalize slowly these investments, these informal investments, it's where we can also broaden a bit our tax potential. So what's important is to create the environment where the informal sector is formalized in a way that it contributes to the national development. Yeah, so that's what we see the government now put in place, the policies to formalize the activities of small businesses to kind of register their business, put in some environment for them to pay tax a little bit based on what they earn from their businesses. And that also is very useful in terms of blowing up a bit the potential for tax collection.
Absolutely. Are you, do you know of like work being done, or are you engaged in work to further promote more taxes on extractives or even high net worth individuals or other sources other than like formalizing the informal sector? Is there work being done on that?
Yes, we are doing that because as I was telling you that we did the research up to 2015 to showcase how much we are losing in potential tax collection in the mining sector. Yeah. And we were able to advise the government what more they can do to control issues around corruption, mismanagement, and that has also improved. You see now we collect more from the extractive as well, compared to the past. So that's some of the developments we see from the mining and extractive sector to contribute to the national economy. And since that, we dropped that agenda in 2017. But from last year, we have started again and focusing on the critical minerals,
right? And
to ensure that the critical mineral also adds value to the tax collection systems, and also helps to broaden our tax potential to reduce inequality. So that's area is also key, and we are planning to undertake the research this year on the critical mining to kind of uncover what the key challenges and what the government can do more to collect from these investments. We
had a couple of episodes ago, we had EITI on, the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, who's headquartered here in Oslo. And I believe Tanzania is a member there. But are you looking at like the recommendations from them in terms of like working with the policy recommendations to the government? Do you have like what sort of I guess specific things are you looking at that might be a policy thing to pursue in terms of the critical minerals, for instance?
Yeah, for instance, Tanzania being a member of, we call it TAITI, Tanzania Extractive.
Because there's a national chapter.
So
you put the T first. That makes sense.
Yes. So it has a lot of recommendation on how the country can also improve in terms of transparency, accountability, and make sure that the revenue collected from these resources is also benefiting the people. So we are kind of take lessons from the TAITI and try to engage with the companies and the corporate to ensure that they kind of comply with those regulations. And more important now, we see now they have introduction of these human rights standards. They call it the human rights due diligence in the mining sector to ensure that there is more of community engagement and participation in kind of developing the development framework between communities and the companies, so that they kind of put in place the plans for community development and social corporate responsibility to ensure that we also benefit those communities hosting the mining resources.
So that's a demand to the companies to put in place those types of plans.
Yes, yes, to kind of help the local government to solve some of the critical problems around social service delivery, like building schools, building health facility, from the corporate social responsibility in that particular community. So that's kind of opposed to the money that the national government is collecting. So this is the share that the local government also get from the mining companies to help support community development.
Okay. I feel like we got very engaged now in all your work. We're very curious, obviously. I want to bring us a bit back to the health reform and ask a bit in terms of where you are now. So this was an attempt to achieve universal healthcare. Where has it gone? Has it been successful in terms of rollout? Obviously, it's not been that many years, but I just want to hear a little update.
I think there's some good developments. And we recently attended the annual sector review for health. Is where we were able to understand the steps that the government is taking to implement the universal health care law. And one of the issues the government was doing with identification, the recruitment of the poor households who will be eligible for the universal health care. So within the phase one,
needs-based.
Within the phase one, they have kind of identified 900,000 families. And from there, they've managed to recruit 400-something thousand, which they have now been given the identity cards and they have started to access the health insurance. They have also introduced the sources of finance, taxing more on the gambling, as I said, the sin tax, and they have also allocated the portion, because during the time we were doing the campaign and the achievement we have recorded, it's where then we faced the USAID funding cuts.
Oh yeah.
And especially to the HIV and AIDS patients who were getting these ARVs and all this. So government has also to include the issue of buying ARV through the health financing, sources.
So that was kind of absorbed into this program.
Yes, the program.
Now
for the time being.
Yeah, missing funding from the USAID. US. Yeah.
So the plan is to ensure that 40% will go to the universal health care, and then 60% will support the HIV and AIDS patient to access ARV, which is also part of health access.
Of course. Yeah.
Especially for the vulnerable.
And there are already systems in place, I guess, in terms of distribution. So it just needs the financing probably.
It's financing program. So that's what we are looking at. And now the government is planning for the new budget, which commences July 1st this year. And for us, it's time now to monitor how much has been actually collected from the new sources that were introduced, and how much was actually disbursed to support universal health care and also to support HIV and AIDS patients.
Yeah, so now you're also getting into a very interesting topic, which is this idea of one thing is to do advocacy for a certain reform and successfully achieving it in this case. But another thing is, monitoring how it is actually implemented.
Yes.
How is it to work with this in Tanzania? Is it possible to follow up the budgets? What are kind of the actors that are involved in this monitoring? Do you want to say something about this?
Very interesting. And one of the actors is also NCA and the faith actors, because we collaborate with other stakeholders, where there is this organization which is doing the budget assessments from the Control and Auditor General's reports.
So those are accessible?
Yes. Yeah. So that is accessible. So they do the budget analysis to kind of understand how government capacity to collect according to the budget commitment, but also to disburse according to what they planned, but also try to see what are the leakages and to recommend to the government to improve. But the challenge we see, most of the recommendations that have been put forward by the Control and Auditor General, they are not implemented. And that is the concern we see. You find out that maybe last year you have maybe 20 recommendations, maybe only 10 has been implemented, 10 not implemented. The next in a round of assessment, you realize then maybe 25 recommendations were put forward, and that maybe only 15 they are being implemented. So that is the challenge we see, that the capacity of government to implement the recommendation from the oversight bodies like the CAG reports is also challenging their capacity to address their own challenges.
Yeah,
so that's another area we see. But at the community level, we build the capacity of the local community structure through what we call public expenditure tracking systems, social accountability monitoring. So this is more of building the capacity of local community to hold their government accountable, their local government accountable.
Okay, so that's local governments holding their own central government accountable.
It's about the people holding their local government accountable.
The people hold,
because all the money from the central government goes to local government for implementation.
Okay.
Building schools, the health facility, building bridges in the rural areas, roads and all this. And those money, they are being channeled to the private sector to do the constructions. So what we do, once we, maybe Village A receive maybe a school project, so when they start that project, now we set up a committee to monitor implementation of that specific project, to see what is the bill of quantities for this project, what is the budget, what is the plan. So the community, they go hand in hand with the company to ensure that they are able to fulfill their commitment based on the plan. And when they finish, when the company is handing over the building to the village and kind of reporting and accountability of the project they implement, and the community also read their report. That is the challenge we saw during implementation, that 1, 2, 3 did not go so well. needs to be improved. Maybe there was corruption in it during the implementation. Maybe the quality, the value for money, is not seen. So that's how we empower communities to be able to make use of the tools, accountability tools, to hold the government accountable at the lower level.
Yeah, and their community members are invited to be part of these committees, or is it experts?
Of course, it's totally local communities themselves. What we do is capacity building, training, give them tools, give them space and opportunity to be able to follow up and to report. And these committees formed by the villagers themselves in the village assembly meetings. So they nominate their members whom they trust to be the kind of watchdogs of the project and to report back to the community. So they are given TOR by the community. And at the end of the project, they're supposed to report what did they see from the implementation, what are the challenges, what are the lessons, what needs to be improved. And then we can consolidate all these findings and submit to the district government.
Yeah, and then you can shape the reports.
Shape the report. So that's it kind of, we have the control and the auditor general at higher level, and we have also community anti-corruption groups. You can call them social accountability groups, but those are at the community level. Try to do their best to ensure value for money for these public projects.
But this is, it's a very interesting insight, I think, for us, especially coming from Norway. We take it for granted in so many ways that, if a project is accepted politically, then someone will make it happen. But even here, oversight on the local level, it's a problem that there's so much room for mismanagement, but also just mistakes to happen on a local level. And to have these community groups whose task it is to ensure that, what is promised to the community is actually delivered. It sounds like a very, not innovative, but a very a strong way to kind of create this accountability, which is really the problem, right?
Yeah, sure, because that is the community, this is the people's money. And you see that you demanded the government that we want a school, and you are able to influence the village authorities to put the plan and also to convince the district authority to allocate fund to build a school. And eventually we have this, what we call the procurement portal, where all the procurement for the construction, it is in the platform.
It's a digital.
So it was digital. Also build the capacity of the community to follow up the procurement processes to see, so it's Gwamaka who has won the tender to build a school. So they start to follow up to this company. They can also try to find out if it exists or not. Because sometimes we have some cases that you have been awarded a project, but you're not even registered. Yeah. You see? So community can also follow up to see, this company exists. And once you report to the village that we want to start implementation, then we work together with you to monitor, to ensure that we are able to realize the result we want. In the past, we were doing the assessment after the project has completed. And then does it make sense? Then, we realized we had some corruption issues, mismanagement, the project didn't go so well. But this time we start together. Yeah. And some of these watchdogs, they can be part of the labor during construction. Right. So they say, here ratio is supposed to be this. And why the ratio now is below the required standard? So we train the communities also to determine the ratios.
From the inside,
From the inside. And then they can report outside, we see there is something going wrong in this project, you see? So they report, and then action is taken on time to rectify those challenges. So that's kind of modality we do it now. We start monitoring once the project is starting to be implemented.
But this also just shows the importance of civil society in, both in terms of bigger actors like NCA and your partners in the faith-based based groups, but also just local people actually being interested in their own local environment, which most people are, but just being given the tools to actually be able to keep governments accountable. It's
and that's why I was also challenging also the discussion we see with the state secretary that whether we should invest in social service delivery in developing country or we empower CSO, civil society, to hold government accountable. For us, I think both is important. That we support social service delivery, but also we support CSO to hold the power holders accountable to ensure that we have accountability and transparency in the implementation of public projects. It's where we can achieve the results we want. But if we focus on social service delivery without empowering people to demand accountability, then it's going to be challenged. Then corruption and all this will come in. Yeah,
I think that's in a way a really nice place to round off this conversation. And for Jonas, who doesn't know this, me and Gwamaka were yesterday talking to the State Secretary Stine Renate Håheim in Norway, and you came with just this input. You have to have two thoughts in your head at the same time. Yes, you need, as an external actor like Norway coming in with aid, but also for governments working on delivering social services, you need to work on service delivery, yes, but you also need to work on the accountability that supports it. And there, civil society actors are really key. That was me stealing your point, but
they are very important because it was also difficult for INSEE to realize these health sector reforms if it was not funded by the Norwegians. You see, so that's the same idea that we push, that you support Africa, you support developing countries to improve their social services, but it's particularly very important to support the civil society. Because those are the people themselves. If they are empowered, they will demand accountability. And if they build that culture of demanding accountability, fighting corruption, transparency, slowly we'll be getting there. And the government will be able to improve social service delivery, and the people livelihood will also improve. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gwamaka. This has been a really good conversation. I think we were both quite inspired since we kept throwing questions at you that we hadn't told you about before. So thank you again, and hopefully we will see you again at some point.
Thank you so much, and we continue to appreciate the support we receive from the Norwegians, but most important, the work of the faith actors. It's very meaningful. They need to continue to be engaged. They need to be empowered because that's the last hope in our country, given that the space is limited, and the faith actors are the ones who have capacity to open a bit because they're the trusted organizations. According to Afrobarometer report, recently shows that the faith actors are the most trusted organizations in Tanzania. And if they're the most trusted, then they should be empowered to empower citizens to hold their government accountable. Thank you so much.
Thank you.